we have everything you need to know about Mayor Pete Buttigieg. I'm going to start off with a little clip here. Listen to this.
And there he was yesterday, front and center, now third in the polls, with a speech that many have said are historic.
He's inspirational so far, and that's something that voters absolutely want.
He has this appeal for a lot of reasons. He is a veteran. He is openly gay. He is from Indiana. He is honest. He speaks from the heart. He seems like he's a lot about empathy here. You are a concert pianist. You speak many languages, including Norwegian, that you learned because you wanted to read a book. A real Renaissance man.
He's like Beto's smarter brother a little bit. And he's so smart to try to channel Obama.
The second coming of Obama, huh? We'll see about that. My prayers may have been answered if that's true.
The draw to this point has been young, fresh, positive, and a change agent.
This guy is chicken soup for my soul.
It sounds like he's Messiah 2, because Obama was Messiah 1. I don't know if you know that. But we have, you see, that's what the Democrats are doing. It's just wonderful. It's really smart of them. And I don't quite know who gave them the idea. But you had your first biracial president. They say it's the first black president, half white. Father's side came from Africa. Doesn't have the black experience, but if you said anything about his policies, you were racist. You're hater, racist, white, cis white. Of course, you know, all white people are related to the Democrats who owned slaves and started Jim Crow in the South, lynched former slaves, and what else did they do? Jim Crow South, lynched slave traders, all of them, you know, all white people, because of the melanin in their skin. It's a dead giveaway that all of us are like that. So you can't say anything about what Obama has done, but we won't get into all the ills. But then you had your female candidate, and if you said anything about her, you were a sexist, you were a misogynist. Of course, she called you a bunch of other names. You're deplorable, you're a homophobe and Islamophobe. Whatever other name she could think of, because she was speaking to the HRC, the Human Rights Campaign, and they were cheering all this talk about hate and calling people names just because they wanted to vote for Trump, and it wasn't because they were any of those names. It's because this country was going down the toilet because we had an academic in office who ran on the color of his skin and told everybody there was no black America, no white America. It's only America. And he was going to bring us all together. Instead, he divided all of us up. And the only people that all these groups are supposed to hate, they were the reason why you had all your problems, were this group of white people. So hate them. So that's what he did, okay? So then you had, of course, his successor was Hillary, and we didn't vote for her because she was a woman, okay? Now they've brought up Mayor Pete. Mayor Pete is gay. He's whiter than anybody that has ever lived. He's got blue eyes. Son of professors. He went to Harvard. He went to Oxford on a Rhodes Scholar. And then he went to McKinsey. It's where ruling class drones are taught the finer points of sucking up to corporate America. So this is who this guy is. If you're an Occupy Wall Street person, or even Antifa, because he's a Marxist. And little do you guys know that fascism is socialism, it's the same damn thing. So you're going to elect this guy who is 100% Wall Street, whiter than I could ever be. I'm only 20% white because now we have all these groups of people that they've designated as not white, which makes me only 20% white. It's so funny. So this guy is 100% white. As white as you can be, but if you say anything against him, he is gay. You'd be called a homophobe. And since he's Christian, oh, he's better than the rest of us. He can be a Christian and be good, but the other Christians, everybody else who's a Christian, we're all hypocrites and we're all bad. But he's the only one who's actually following Christianity. But we're going to dive deeper into this and see how well he follows Christianity. And I'm not even going to use his sexual orientation. That goes out the window. We're not even going to bother with that one because he's got enough that kind of shows me he's not really practicing Christianity. Okay, so since he's like one of the least oppressed people that has ever lived on this earth, and he came out 4 years ago as gay, during a time where if you're gay, you're one of the oppressed groups, it's like it's a badge. You're actually better than the other people who aren't gay and are cisgendered, and are white. So it's an advantageous time to come out as gay. So good for him. He had that. So he had to make up oppression that he didn't have. He could have, like I said, it was difficult keeping it in and all that stuff. It's true. All of us keep a lot of things in. We don't show our true selves. It's true. A lot of people suffer in silence about a lot of things, and they never tell anybody about it. And being gay isn't the only thing that people are suffering in silence about. So there's one thing you can think about, Mayor Pete. So let's see. Well, okay, Harvard Rhodes Scholar. And our system has been extremely good to Buttigieg. He's a victim, then nobody is, essentially. And the term really has no meaning anymore. Now, I heard Tucker say the other day, how does Pete Buttigieg win his party's Victim Olympics? Let's see, how does he do it? This is how he does it. By being a Christian in name. These are my words. By being a Christian in name and a hypocrite in reality. Okay. Pete became mayor of South Bend, Indiana, while Pence was governor of Indiana. And, they got along really well. They were actually really good friends. They had a very warm relationship. He gave him some kind of t-shirt, Pence. He gave Pence a t-shirt about South Bend. And then he went to Facebook and wrote very warmly about him. What a wonderful guy he was. And they did some kind of friendship walk together. So they got along for years and years and years. But you see, Pete Buttigieg was criticized not too long ago for being not gay enough and too white. And the fact that too many white people attended his rallies, only white people. And you know what he did to the white people? He actually got mad because too many white people were attending his rallies. So he got mad at the people who were supporting him. And he's mad at the fact that minorities are not supporting him. Maybe they've already seen through him that he's a hypocrite. I think that's it. I don't think it has anything to do with sexual orientation. I think he's a hypocrite. Okay. But so Buttigieg has made Pence the evil Christian. How the left has always made Christians evil. And then they have their favorite religions, right? Religions you can't speak up against. Otherwise you're a phobe or some kind. They call you a name. Let's not list them all. But Christianity, you can throw stones at. you can always throw stones at Christianity. But Pete Buttigieg, because he's an Episcopalian, apparently it seems like he's telling us he practices Christianity the way you're supposed to practice it, and all of us other Christians aren't. So he can be the self-righteous one on the pedestal and point out all our sins. It's so good of him to know, because I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm so glad. And I hope he sends me a letter or some kind of video telling me everything I've done wrong, because he's the only one who can sit on that pedestal. So apparently what he's done is he's demonized Mike Pence. And he says Mike Pence and his backward religion, his backward beliefs, which if he's supposed to be Christian, then he's following backwards beliefs. I want to take us back to the 12th century, when women and gays and all these people were persecuted and things like that. And he's painting all the Christians as gay haters. But if you're a Christian and you like gay people, Mayor Pete, how can you paint all Christians as gay haters? It's interesting. It's even more interesting because of the Abrahamic faith that we know of. In their books, in Surah 800, it says, a shower of stones shall rain upon them until they're dead. It's actually the death penalty in these other Abrahamic religions. And even in the Old Testament, the Torah, it says in Leviticus that they will be stoned to death, anyone who's gay. However, when you get to Christianity, you have the whole thing with the adulteress. And Jesus said, because back then in the Old Testament, if you're a child who speaks up against their parents, then they can be killed. If a girl is found not to be a virgin, she gets killed. And if you're homosexual, you get killed. So in these religions, the death penalty is there. But it's funny because in Christianity, Jesus said, he who is without sin cast the first stone. And they all realized even lying was punishable by death. Everything was punishable by death. They realized that they had all sinned, so they dropped the stone. So essentially, Jesus, they were trying to catch him saying something against the prophets. And if he did, he would have been stoned to death. But very cleverly, he just said, hey, amongst you without sin, cast the first stone. So they all dropped the stone because they realized they all had sinned. So Christianity is the only one. Christianity is the one. Do you know that Christianity is the most persecuted of all religions, even though the left and the media narrative would tell you that it's these other groups or other religions are more persecuted? And it's because of the Christians, that they're persecuted. In America, it's actually Jewish people that are persecuted the most. But in the world, Christians are the most persecuted and massacred. But the media doesn't tell you that, which is interesting. So the religion that has been bashed the most, especially by the LGBTQ community, and my cousin told me, no, don't write that screenplay. Nobody will buy it because you can't mix Christianity and homosexuality. He said you'll never sell. Because somehow they see in Christianity that it's against homosexuality. It says in it, man shall not lie with another man as he does with a woman. But what it doesn't say is kill them. In the Old Testament, it says kill them. In the other religion that will not be named, it says kill them. Okay. But Christianity is the only one that doesn't. But so Pete Buttigieg is a Christian. And he stands up there and he says the most beautiful passage, which makes us feel that he's just all empathetic and kind and knows the true Christianity. He who gave me drink when I was thirsty, when I was naked, you clothed me, When I was in prison, you visited me. When I was sick, you comforted me. Lord, when did we do these things for you? He who does these things to the least of mine, he does it to me. And he said that during the town hall. And it's like, oh, this guy, he's so good. Well, he's the one who truly practices Christianity. So Christianity, according to the left, is breeding gay haters. But at the same time, you can pull out of, what do you pull out of Christianity? Passages like, if you, whatever you do to the least of mine, good or bad, you're doing it to me, which means don't. It's a beautiful passage. And he who is without sin cast the first stone, which means abolishing the punishment that was laid out in the Old Testament and the other religion. That's the favorite religion of the left. So why are you even talking about Christianity, since it's the bad one? But you are the only one who practices it right. Kind of like what Jesus said to the Pharisees. You're like sepulchres that are all clean and white on the outside, but inside filled with dead men's bones and all corruption. You are up there self-righteous, saying that you are the only one that practices true Christianity. And you're lying about someone who was a good friend of yours, who treated you kindly, you had a warm relationship with, and has said nothing about your homosexuality. And all you're doing is standing up there telling everyone that Pence is against you because you're a homosexual, that he is against your marriage to your husband because you're homosexual, when he never said such a thing. He never said such a thing. So that means you're breaking a couple of commandments. Put the homosexuality right out the window. Let's make that not a sin at all. You're lying, well, you're a Democrat, so they all lie, and the socialists. You're lying, and you're bearing false witness against your neighbor. So there's two things that you're doing wrong, and that's why I call you self-righteous. How dare you do that? See, he also, what he does, how they blame Christians, that there's a lot of stuff in Christianity that's bad, or there's a lot of stuff in the Bible that's bad, and they accuse us of picking and choosing the good things. But it seems like he's picking and choosing the good things, and he's not looking at the whole thing, because that whole thing about he who is without sin cast the first stone. But maybe he is without sin. He could be like Obama, who was the Messiah. He was without sin, and he was the smartest guy that ever lived. I mean, this guy is the second Messiah. That's amazing. That's who he is. So let me have you listen to this clip for a second.
I hold Mayor Buttigieg in the highest personal regard, and we have a great working relationship. And I see him as a dedicated public servant and a patriot.
Wow! 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 Did I hear that right? Hold him in the highest regard and a dedicated public servant? Did I hear that right? I don't think I heard that right. I should really look at that again. Oh, Buttigieg gave Pence an I Love South Bend t-shirt and then went ahead and talked about him very warmly on Facebook. Apparently they were very good friends, but he told a crowd in Austin not to judge my state by its former governor and social extremism, and who is a cheerleader of the porn star president. So, what do you call that? Throwing stones? Now that's really odd. because of a few things I'm going to tell you about Trump. On CNN, he said that God himself disapproves of Mike Pence and, of course, his employer, Donald Trump. You know, how self-righteous. And he used the word himself, which says to me is very sexist. So Buttigieg is very sexist because he's claiming that God is a man. How do you know God isn't a woman? How do you know God hasn't made up its own gender? Maybe you should call him a Z or something like that, and not a he. How do you know? You're a gay man, so maybe you want God to be a man, right? So that's quite sexist of you, because God could be a woman, or God could be one of the 5 trillion genders that will be made up by the end of the year. You know, you think being a member of the LGBTQ community, he would be sensitive about that. But let's see. Here's another lie that he's told. Slander about Mike Pence. The guy who you can't accuse, the Me Too movement can't accuse of anything because he will not meet with a woman unless his wife is with him. So Mike Pence has said nothing about his marriage. Nothing about his marriage to a man at all. Yet, Buttigieg doesn't judge him at all, but Buttigieg happened to say this. Listen.
My marriage to Chasten has made me a better man.
Oh, I bet it has.
And yes, Mr. Vice President, it has moved me closer to God. And that's the thing I wish the Mike Pences of the world would understand.
I wish they would.
If you got a problem with who I am, your problem is not with me. Your quarrel, sir, is with my Creator.
Oh, you got him. You got him. Wow, that quarrel that he doesn't even have. The quarrel that he doesn't even have, he's never mentioned. He's making up. You see, this guy sounds really good, but he's such a liar. He's making up oppression where it doesn't exist. And he knows, see, he's smart enough to know that people all over the country have bought the lie that Trump is a racist. They bought the lie of Russia collusion when there was none. Trump single-handedly ended segregation in Palm Beach. Palm Beach, where all the Democrats used to go on pilgrimage to the Kennedy compound, because the Kennedys bought a house in a section of Palm Beach that Black people could not own houses and they could not walk the streets of. So when Trump bought Mar-a-Lago, he sued the city for $75 million because he wanted Jews and Blacks and minorities to attend as a guest, and own parts of Mar-a-Lago if they wanted to. So he sued them and won, because you don't want that kind of attention. In 1998, to find out that there's still a city that has segregation in America, and all you Democrat minority-loving hypocrites said nothing about, because you probably enjoyed going to a place where there was no minorities, no Black people, and no Jews. You liked that, and you want to keep it that way. But Trump won fast, because they didn't want the news to spread all over the country. So this is the bad man that everybody believes is a racist, who isn't a racist, and Black unemployment, minority unemployment, and women unemployment is the lowest than it's ever been in history. And that's done by the direct actions of Trump, by destroying Obama's regulations, which drove businesses out of the country. He is building up Black communities as well, also bringing back companies that left the country by, look, I've let go of these regulations. Come on back, giving them incentive to come back to this country where all these people who are out of work are now employed. See, the Democrats believed all these lies. Oh, he also hired the first female forewoman of a construction job in the 70s. So to say that he's against women, it's such a lie. But the Democrats and people who are not educated on the truth, that are being fed lies by the MSN, believed it. So Mayor Buttigieg thinks that he can pass off all these lies, bearing false witness to Mike Pence and to Trump. Now, Trump also, this is what makes it a bigger sin. Trump, 40 years ago, you had the civil rights movement, and it was for equality, right? Women's ERA movement, it was for equality. The gay movement, the HRC, LGBTQ movement, they also wanted equality, and they also wanted to be seen as people and not a label as gay. They wanted to remove that label and just be seen as people. Trump supported them at the beginning, and just like blacks, Jews, minorities, he welcomed gays to all his resorts, to all his golf clubs, to his hotels, to work there, to be an open gay, to be with your partner, which back 40 years ago, when Democrats and Republicans were not in support of gay marriage, but Trump was. Okay, but Trump was. He's basically telling all the people out there who are racist with lots of money and could come to all his resorts or casinos, he owned a lot of stuff, or buildings, condos. He was telling all of them, all those people with money, if you're a racist, I don't care if you have money. If you're a homophobe, I don't care if you have money. If you're an anti-Semite, I don't care if you have money. Stay away from everything I own, because it's going to be in your face. You're going to see black people, you're going to see Jews, you're going to see homosexuals kissing an arm in arm. He was with them at the beginning, but Buttigieg is lying. Buttigieg is lying. And that's cruel. That's really cruel, because Trump actually lost a lot of money by taking that stand that long ago, when there was a lot more racism and homophobia. He took that stand, and you're lying about him. What ceiling are you going to break? I don't think you're going to break any ceiling. He's the one who broke all the ceilings. And he broke it 40 years ago by standing behind all these oppressed groups. Oh my God. God disapproves of Mike Pence. Oh my God. Now, how do you think Pence responded? Being painted as a gay hater, having his moral character and reputation dragged through the mud. You know what? Just like a true Christian would. Let's listen to that clip. He's called all these names and lied about by Buttigieg. Fabrications, lies, just like a true politician. He's a true politician, and he's really smart, so he can twist things and make you think to yourself, well, he said all this good stuff. Well, maybe I should kind of disregard that. Maybe I'm making a big deal out of it because he talks so well. Well, this is how he stabbed Pence in the back. And Pence, this is why Pence responded as a true Christian.
I've known Mayor Pete for many years. We worked very closely together when I was governor, and I considered him a friend. He knows I don't have a problem with him.
Oh my God. Oh my God, I am like so shocked. Those are just so not Christian things to say. So not Christian. Okay. As an Episcopalian, he practices his faith by supporting late-term abortion, which means I'm going to do a little thing on that abortion. There's some lies going around the web that whole thing about post-birth abortion, and there's a lot of lies going around the web. And I'm going to look at this legally, how it's written in legalese, and what the definition of what that law actually means. And Trump wasn't wrong about it. I'll just say that. Trump has lawyers all around him. So even if he is stupid and doesn't understand, he's got lawyers right next to him telling him, this is what that means. So that's why he keeps talking about it, because he knows what it means. Okay, so he supports late-term abortions. He doesn't care. And attacks people who have been kind to him. He's a liar and a hypocrite. Maybe people don't care about him painting good people who refuse to stoop to his level as Christians with hate in their heart. No. You see, he dragged Pence's name through the mud. And even Trump. It's the worst one of all to drag through the mud. Because Trump, which the mainstream media is not reporting on this, he's trying to end the death penalty for gays all over the world. See, there are some countries who are run by the law of the favorite religion of the left, okay? Who, in their book, Surah 800, it's the death penalty. A shower of rocks shall rain down upon them. And even in the Old Testament, stoning to death. Okay. Gays are persecuted all over the world. And Trump is trying to end this and end the death penalty for it. And it's funny because Out magazine said, which is a gay magazine, said that the reason why Trump is doing this, or anyone who does things like this, like trying to end the death penalty for gays and persecution of gays, is the sign of a racist. So you mean to tell me that Out magazine is pro the execution of gay people and the persecution of gay people? That's what that's how twisted the left is. That's how twisted they are. And that's how twisted Buttigieg is. By lying flat out about Pence and making up oppression just like Smollett. This is just like Smollett and paying his Nigerian friends to put on whiteface, put on MAGA hats, and pretend they were going to lynch him so he can look like a victim. He made up a crime. And that crime was against Trump supporters. It painted they're trying to prove that Trump supporters are racist and evil, when the truth is the guy who shot up Steve Scalise, was going to shoot up all the Republicans, was a Bernie supporter. That's what this is. Buttigieg is doing a lighter version, a version where he can't be arrested for. He's flat out lying, and there's enough people out there that are uneducated on the truth that believe him. And that's the thing that cuts through the heart. Funny, he was asked at a town hall about gentrification. And gentrification is what's going on in his city, what he was doing. And he's extremely intelligent. He knows what he's doing, because what he did by bulldozing houses in the minority communities and apartments, it takes a lot of thought, a lot of planning, because he wanted to beautify his city. And to do that, he bulldozed homes and apartments. You see, the minorities that live there are very poor. And what they would do is they could only afford these houses. And their plan was, they were in the process of fixing up these houses that they could afford so they could live in a nice house in the city that they were born in. Except with gentrification, when you do that, because it does beautify his city. And I know Buttigieg wants to make his city beautiful and people to come visit the city, and these eyesore homes he doesn't want, right? So what happens is when you do that, then these people cannot afford to rent an apartment or buy a home in the city that you basically are getting rid of them without outright getting rid of them, So he was asked about this, and what he said back was, I refuse to answer that question because I refuse to be dragged down into the mud of the questionnaire. Very good how you evaded that question. Very good. You tell me, somebody with that much education didn't know what he was doing. And you see, somebody who was on his side said, oh, but it's a good sign. It's actually a good sign because when he was told what this was doing to the minority community, he changed his mind about it. You mean he didn't know that these people are too poor to afford these new houses or rent apartments? You mean he didn't know that with all his education? With more education you can shake a stick at, a Rhodes Scholar. You mean he hadn't thought that one out? Of course he did. He's a hypocrite, okay? Taking in the full scope of his education, thoughtfulness, very well spoken, which impresses the Obama-esque way of people, that they cannot see straight. These people cannot see through this, because he has taken on Obama's way of talking, very well spoken, very well educated. You see, it's those people that are very well educated that can speak in circles and they have an answer to everything, or they know how to avoid an answer just very smoothly. Those are the ones that you have to be very cautious of. Because this guy is a Marxist, we know that. He wrote a few essays on how much he admired Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, who went to Moscow for the Iron Curtain was going on, Soviet Russia. And he went there on his honeymoon, and he was at a table when they were all naked, and they were drinking and singing, "This is my land, this is your land," and bread lines were good, which bread lines are, the reason why you have bread lines is you have to line up. And if you're not first in line, you don't get any food. You don't get any of anything. Because in communism, that's why he's obsessed with deodorants. Too many deodorants. They only make so much of everything. And if you're sick, you can't go get the food. So that kills you off. If you're at the end of the line, they'll kill those people off. They only make a certain amount of everything. So people at the end of the line don't get any food at all. Oh, but bread lines are good. They're good. That means people are eating. When you don't see bread lines, that means nobody's eating. There's no food. No. Sorry about that. And that Cuba is great, that the people took back Cuba. No, they didn't. Che Guevara went on a killing spree, massacred all these people, mass rapes. He raped women like crazy, and he killed all the homosexuals. You see, there's your communism for you. So did the Castros. They hated black people. Black people are in jail. They hate homosexuals. And if you don't like communism, they just shoot you. You're against the government. They line you up and shoot you. So Pete Buttigieg is for these people. He's for people that have executed all the homosexuals and put black people in jail. Where is he? They're white. You see, the Castros. So is Che Guevara. As handsome as he was, he's white. Okay? So Pete Buttigieg, it's like, why are you for this? Why are you for, and your friend there, Bernie Sanders is for this too. This is racism to the max. This is homophobia to the max. This is genocide of homosexuals to the max. And these people are for it. That's why it doesn't matter how they paint them. It doesn't matter how good they sound. There is evil behind that door. This is the door that leads to communism. What they did in Soviet Russia. This isn't going too far. This is a fact. We know what happened in Cuba. We know what Che Guevara did. We know that he killed en masse all the homosexuals. Yet, Buttigieg's father was the editor of a Marxist newspaper. Buttigieg had praised Bernie Sanders for coming out as a socialist because Buttigieg is social. He's not a capitalist. He's a socialist. And he wants an open border, a welfare system, and health care for everyone. How do you pay for that? How do you pay for it? This is how you pay for it. Saul Alinsky. They all follow Saul Alinsky. And this is what you do. You see, socialism destroys capitalism. That's the only thing it knows how to do. It destroys things. Saul Alinsky said, the only way you can bring on communism is to overwhelm the system. That's why you have the open border. You bring people from all over the world are coming through, including terrorists. This is a fact, are coming through. We know this, all right? And there's 400 million people south of the border. You're going to overwhelm the system, and then you break the system. And guess what happens to all those people that you say you care about? Because you get the vote, because they'll all vote for the Democrat. Then you'll have one-party rule. There won't even be a toilet to piss in, because there's no sewers. There's too many people. There won't be any water. There won't be any land to grow the food. There won't be any doctors. You're going to have doctors. All these doctors we have now are going to provide care in the hospitals and whatever prescriptions and innovations in science is going to take care of everybody, because the whole world is actually coming through that border. People from all over the world are funneling through Panama and Costa Rica into this country. And Buttigieg is for this. He is, I know there's a saying, I forget what the saying is, but wolves in sheep's clothing is a good saying. But there's another one, how a salesman, a really good salesman, can sell you shit and you think you've bought a bag of gold because they're such a smooth talker. Be wary of the really intelligent ones, because through their words, they can lead you down paths that you have no idea what's at the end of that path. You're going around in circles, and everything you hear sounds good, sounds good, sounds good. And then all of a sudden, you're at the bottom, sitting in a garbage pile, and you don't know how you even got there. That's what this, okay, so let's put all this aside and just let's look at his record. Now, there's this thing that's going around the web, which is true. He had demoted the first African-American chief of police. And African-American woman the other night asked him a question about this, and he cleverly evaded it, saying that this chief of police was recording conversations that were illegal to record, and the FBI would put him in jail for 10 years for doing that. But it also says, if you hear about this, that there was some racial slurs in those recordings. And that there's things he was trying to pick up. And a funny thing happened after this I'm putting these two things together, and the news hasn't put it together, but I am. That happened after he demoted the first African-American chief of police in the city of South Bend. I tell you, this guy is not for minorities, but he is the new Obama, that's for sure. Okay, his record as mayor, as of 2015, South Bend, the town's and it's smaller than Chicago. The town's murder rate in South Bend is almost the same as it is in Chicago. You know, there's massacres of Black people that go on in Chicago all the time, and nobody talks about it because the people killing the Black people are other Black people. And that's sad, and that needs to be stopped. Okay. All right, so the murder rate is as high as Chicago, okay? And let's see. Aggravated assaults. You know what happened to aggravated assaults? Tripled under Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Okay, you got your murders the same as Chicago. The murders raised to that level under him. Aggravated assaults tripled. And what happened to, rapes nearly doubled. So I'm sure that it's also men that got raped, but women, you Me Too women, you're going to vote for Buttigieg. Well, apparently he demoted this chief of police, and then his town went to hell in a handbasket. And I bet it's not the rich people living in the rich side of town that all this crime is happening to. I bet you any money it's the really poor side of town that he's been bulldozing, trying to bring up to get rid of these poor people. So if you're going to look at his record, forget the fact he's gay. Forget the fact that he's a hypocrite and he's bearing false witness against somebody who is his friend and has nothing against him being a gay man or married to a gay man. Nothing. He's lying, and he's lying about Trump, painting him as evil when Trump is trying to eradicate the murder and persecution of homosexuals. It's punishable by death all over the world. A certain religion, not Christianity. The religion that the Democrats love, because Christianity somehow is worse to homosexuals, even though they abolished the death penalty. Jesus did abolish the death penalty. So if you forget all that, you want this mayor of a little town called South Bend, Pete Buttigieg. This is his record. That's his record. You want to vote him as president? And then have rapes doubled, violent assaults tripled, and the murder rate as sky high as it is in Chicago? You want to vote that in. Forget about everything else I said. This is one you want. Forget that he's a hypocrite. This is what you want. This is all he can do. This is his experience, other than going to college and being an elitist and having everything handed to him on a silver platter and being the least oppressed person in the world and coming out when it's good to be homosexual. You're loved even more. You'll be hired quicker if you're a homosexual. But at the same time, he's whiter than white. I'm only 20% white. He's whiter than white, okay? This is his record. Good night, everyone. And I'll have that little clip from the end of the video I did the other night, because it was pretty good. Watch it. This is everything you need to know about Pete Buttigieg. And I'm sure there's going to be more coming out. And maybe I'll do another segment on that after I gather more information. But he is dangerous. He is dangerous. And he's not Jesus Christ Superstar. He's dangerous.